I just wanted to share with you that when Christine first asked me to be a part of this amazing day, I said, yeah, I'll do the 8-minute segment because, at least I figure I could have 8 minutes worth of stories. And then she gives me the 18-minute opener. So now the pressure's on. But I'm going to tell you that there are 2 things that console me. One is that if I put you to sleep, sleep is my business, so I'll feel better about that. And 2, as the first speaker, but really only the second now, it can only get better from here, so I'm happy. But by the way, I'm very excited to be here. I don't blog, and I know there might be many mommy bloggers because that's how Christine and I first met, because I just don't think I'm that prolific. But I do tweet, although that's a challenge for me too, because to try to get those comments, I'm kind of wordy to get into that 140 characters difficult, or then I often sometimes miss that sweet spot of opportunity because it's timely and because I overanalyze everything I'm going to say. And my daughter, who's 16, and she's very savvy on all of this, she goes, Mom, just send it. But I'm working on it. I love today's theme, which is play, because I think it does mean so many different things to all of us. And by the way, to play, you need a great night's sleep, you need a good mattress. Don't worry, I'm not going to sound like one of my irritating ads. I just thought I should mention it. But, play. I think play and often is to think about the idea of being in the moment, which is so important, as a mom, a wife, a friend, a daughter, and a president. It may be the answer to that quintessential question that we have, which is life balance. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that. And playing is also being a player, seizing that opportunity. And that's what I did when I started Sleep Country. And then play is to also have fun, joy and enjoy. And for just a moment, maybe not to take ourselves so seriously in what is on the backdrop of a very serious, if not sometimes scary world. So first I wanted to say that when I look at my life, I'm very fortunate to have started Sleep Country almost 20 years ago. It was 18. And we started it here in Vancouver. And when Steve and Gord, my business partners, asked me to be part of Sleep Country, and we were sitting down and talking about our concept, I have to admit that I thought, mattresses, couldn't we sell something more exciting like fashion, But, the timing was right, and it was good for us to start a mattress business. But one of the things that I think made it easier for me to consider this opportunity was I didn't have children yet. And, I don't know what the answer would have been, whether I would have, seized that opportunity or had the courage or taken the time to start Sleep Country Canada if I had had my children. Which is why when I look around this room and know that many of you now juggle, like I do, the issues of children and husbands or spouses and business, it is tough. And when I decided to quit the bank and my husband and I sold everything we owned and moved out to Vancouver, I stopped telling people what I was going to do because they look at me like I was crazy. People would say, you're leaving, a very secure job. I was fast-tracked. I was becoming fast-tracked at the bank to be a VP. And now I was going to go sell mattresses. And I was going to be the mattress lady. And by the way, when I told my girlfriend that this is what I was going to do, she laughed at me because she couldn't believe I was going to do it. Worse yet was the realization that I'd agreed to be the spokesperson. So just imagine I'd spent 13 years in the banking industry, and it was in corporate lending, commercial lending, and M&A work. And now, and I was really, I'd spent that years really developing my, serious business persona. And now I was going to sell mattresses. And had the company failed, that would have been a very public failure. And one of the reasons, one of the things that made it easier for me to adopt that is because I moved from Toronto to Vancouver and no one knew me here. And so short-lived that anonymity proved to be, it did make it easier for me. But having children and becoming a mom 3 years into our business was eye-opening. First, I have to admit, I was a little afraid to tell my 2 business partners that I was pregnant. I was 34 when we started Sleep Country Canada, and I don't think they had really contemplated the what-ifs of pregnancy for me. I know, by the way, we had talked about the risk of branding around me in the event that I would have died. But somehow, everybody got comfortable with that one. I'm telling you, I think they figured it out. They figured that we would get some press and maybe a sympathy play. So I have to tell you, when it's a little slow in the stores, I go out to the parking lot at the office and I look underneath my car just in case they need a little press. But there were certainly some life lessons when I started a family and running a quickly expanding business. We opened 4 stores in October of 1994. And in 1997, when my first daughter, Riley, arrived, we had were just completing our 50th store. You know, it was a wonder that I even got pregnant because honestly, I was aging rapidly during this stress of expansion. But first, you know, I have to say, I didn't have the luxury of being able to spend and take a lot of time off. And I think it was like 3 weeks. I don't even know. It was something like that. But I do have pictures of doing a radio recording in the living room of my home holding my newborn. And I had to tell my business partner to stop calling me or sending me courier packs because I'm coming back. But you know, what was supposed to be so natural, you know, I was 37, turning 38 years old when I had my first daughter. And I thought the whole thing of motherhood, you know, I was mature. I thought, you know, it wouldn't be no problem. I can do this. Okay, that was a bit of a wake-up call. And then I naively thought that I would bring my daughter into the office in the very beginning, instead of arranging for a nanny. Okay, that lasted 1 day. I don't know what I was thinking, but you know, I was not only totally distracted, but it had disrupted the entire office. You know, I did travel a lot in that first year with Riley, and because we were expanding so much, and you know, that was really evidenced by, in the first 12 months of her life, she actually received a frequent flyer card in the mail. Now, that was a tad embarrassing, but certainly it was very convenient. And in that first year, as we were traveling, I would bring my mom or my mom and dad or my nanny to come with me. And although it was difficult, really, it did produce a number of, you know, funny and memorable moments, like arriving in Calgary and getting to the hotel at 10 p.m. at night. And as I opened up Riley's travel bag to find ski gloves and ski gear, and I could well imagine, you know, the dude that arrived, you know, with his stuff at the mountain and, you know, opening up his duffel bag and he found pablum and diapers. But all got righted the next day. But you know, as my girls started to get older, I had my second daughter in 2000, and a few things strike me as interesting. First, I think children have a way of teaching you about yourself. You know, at the office and throughout my career, I've always prided myself on control or consideration and, you know, patience even in the face of crisis. You know, I always generally keep my cool, and I never really let my emotions run away with themselves. So I had to ask myself one morning, why do I seem to be losing it at home all the time, you know? Then I realized at the office, you know, people listen to me. I'm the president, you know? Whether they agree or not, they kind of do what I say. But at home, getting a 2- and a 5-year-old to obey you requires an entirely different set of skills. But all kidding aside, okay, actually I'm not kidding, I did feel exactly that way, but having a family does create a whole other set of realities. You know, for me, it does remind me of that daily issue and importance of being present. I have said that I liken play with the concept of being in the moment, you know, of seizing the opportunity as it presents itself and taking the time to enjoy what we're doing right now. Sleep Country Canada and starting it was an opportunity that I certainly did seize and run. And in itself, it was fun, it was exciting, it was challenging. But it is my family that is my truest calling. You know, I come from a very middle-class family, and I had good role models as a child. My parents both worked, and I have to say, I don't feel like I was abandoned because my mom and my dad both had to go to the office. In truth, I really do think that I feel enriched by their experiences that were routinely shared at the dinner table every night. And you know, my parents were very passionate about their job, but the most important thing in their lives was their children, and we knew it, and it was very important, and it's very foundational to who I am. And I want to give my girls that same feeling. You know, yes, being the mattress lady is very important to me. And representing my company, even like, you know, as a spokesperson today, standing here in front of you, you know, it is important. Our sustained growth, our profitability, and employing and developing more than 1,200 members of my team. But I want my girls to know that the most important treasure is them. If I were to be successful at business and not to be a good mom, then honestly, I truly have failed. And at the end of the day, only my girls can answer that question. A few years ago, I started to reduce my commitments in board work because I couldn't manage it. Increasingly, you know, I felt like I was missing time at home. school trips, concerts, or just being present. And I realized, my girls were going to be off to university soon. And I didn't want to miss any more time. And I would never get that time back. By the way, I still get caught up in overpromising my time and being busy. And just yesterday, as my 16-year-old, and I said I'm flying off to Vancouver to chat this morning, and I'd been in Montreal on Tuesday, and I'm going on Saturday with my mom, my sister, and my brother to Europe. She said, "Oh yeah, Mom, I love you too." Because that's what they do. They make us real, and they make us conscious, and they remind us of the time we need to spend with them. So yes, I need to be reminded to stop and yes, play and balance. I don't know about you, but to me, it is ever elusive. From moment to moment, crisis to crisis, day to day. Balance is coming to terms or acceptance that all the balls that we have in the air, we willingly juggle. And I know it's different for all of us. I always thought that life was going to get easier as we got older. And I don't think it does. I think it gets more complex, more challenging. Perhaps daily there are issues or decisions in business or at home that are outside of my comfort zone. I don't know the answer, or, I just don't feel like I'm getting everything done that I want to, or done as well as I wish I could. But, I really think that these complexities enrich our lives, and they do make it more rewarding, or maybe I just need to think that. But I have come to believe that balance is getting comfortable, that I'm always going to be just a little uncomfortable. I'm lucky for that one of the critical factors of the success in my life is the support I receive from family and friends. I have mentioned my mom and dad, certainly my sister, my brother, my friends, my colleagues, my great business partners who are true friends of mine. But it has been my husband who has been a critical reason for my success. I have been with him for the last 37 years. We dated for 9. We've just been married 28 years this past February. And I know you're thinking, how can that be? She looks so young. Okay, maybe you're not thinking that, but And our girls are 16 and 13. Okay, we were a bit slow, but we certainly have had lots of years of practice. Enough said. But, my husband, Al, has always been there for me. He is my confidant. He is my best cheerleader. He always takes my side. That is, unless we're arguing. And he is my best friend. And so funny, when, Sheryl Sandberg, in her book, Lean In, and I don't know how many of you have read that book, but she talks about a great life partner being so important in our success, and I really find that true. And I wanted to say that I don't know if you haven't read the book, don't listen to the critics. I love this book. I identified so much with it, and it inspired me. Just a sidebar, I had the privilege of introducing Oprah Winfrey in the spring of this year at Hamilton Copps Coliseum, and it was in front of 12,000 people. And I have to say, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it because I thought this could be my worst nightmare. I had spent 18 years as a spokesperson trying to avoid public embarrassment. That is, if you don't count our ads. But I had just read Lean In. And I felt compelled that, that I should do this, because in the book it talks about saying that both Sheryl and Oprah Winfrey have on the walls in their office. And it says, "What would I do if I were not afraid to fail?" And I love that saying, and it actually compelled me to take on this challenge. And in the end, I consider it a success. I didn't faint, I didn't fall off the stage. I have to say, though, I did take a sip of water just before I was about to introduce her, and I started to choke. And I thought, okay, this is going to be my worst nightmare. But I did get through it. But what was so interesting is I was standing on stage, and I looked down, and there was my husband and my 2 girls right there in the front stage. And I really did feel stronger and strengthened by their presence. And I wanted, because I knew that my girls knew that I was nervous and I was afraid. And I wanted to be great for them. And I wanted them to show them that you can, and you really can overcome your fear. When my little girls were little, and I used to come home from the office, and I would bring home a briefcase of work, and as I was driving home, I'd be thinking of all the things I had to accomplish, And as I walked through my front door, and my little girls, when they were smaller, would go, "Mommy, Mommy," and they would run to the front door and leap into my arms. And in that moment, I realized that they loved me regardless of what I accomplished or didn't accomplish. And it is that moment, that reality, in which we really understand what is truly important. And the work in that briefcase, well, it was forgotten, during dinner and play and at that bedtime story. And as this tired mom habitually fell asleep with one daughter or the other, only to wake up fully clothed at midnight going, I forgot to do that work. But balance is a frame of mind that it may be directly proportional to all and how many activities we have on our plate. But it's also discovering who we are and finding the understanding and acceptance in the choices we make. You know, the last two thoughts that I wanted to leave with you is first that play is not to take yourself too seriously, which I need advice constantly, by the way. You know, I need to lighten up. I need not to worry about making a mistake or worried about failing. And I also have to just think about learning from it. I need to learn how to forgive myself and have the courage to move on. And by the way, it is way easier to give that advice than to live by it. I also wanted to suggest that dreams are also important to play. They say that dreams are very important about setting aspirations and goals. And you know, we need to encourage our daughters and our sons and our family and ourselves to dream. You know, I've always encouraged, and I've always actually been one to daydream when I was little, and I still am. That's probably why I'm in the sleep business. But I am not a great observer. And I have to imagine what it would be like doing whatever it is I'm watching. And it's honestly, it's very true. If I'm watching a sport, it could be a ballet, it could be a speech, it could be the X Factor. At some point, I start to imagine with just a little more time or practice, or if I had a few less years under my belt, I seriously think that I could do that. And you know, a good friend of mine just says I suffer from delusions of grandeur. And I say, hey, look who's on TV. Look, I do believe that we need to dare to dream and dream big, even if that dream is only in passing. You know, failure is not that we don't achieve our dreams. I really want you to consider that, you know, for most of us, it may be that we don't have enough dreams. Because what is success? It is really such a personal thing. It's like a mattress. And I have to bring all my anecdotes back to the mattress industry. But you know, what's comfortable for me in a mattress may not be comfortable for you. What I deem as success, you may think is only the beginning on what you really want to achieve in pursuit of that goal. I think you have to have the courage to pursue your dreams and the conviction to know that whatever we achieve in pursuit of that dream, success is knowing that we tried. I want to leave you with one last story. You know, I've talked about children being very grounding. And one day I was in my kitchen, and my two girls were there, and at the time they were 6 and 9. And one of the Sleep Country ads came on the radio. And my youngest, who was now 13, looked at me and with her big green hazily eyes, with her blonde hair just tumbling around her little cherub face, and she goes, Mommy, that doesn't sound like you on the radio. You sound so nice. Okay, if that's not grounding, I don't know what is. And I said, honey, shh, don't tell them. I think I've got them fooled. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It's been such a pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your day.